Avisa. Good morning, everyone. It might be overcast outside. However, it's shining inside because we're seeing all of you. It's really true. Before we start, we always have an opening prayer, and they're going to call Daniel today to do our opening prayer today.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Sunrise Center. So if we could all close our eyes now, briefly, take a deep breath in and out. Let's center ourselves, and let's welcome our spiritual guides, our spiritual companions of the light, and ask that they prepare us and open our minds to receive the lessons of today, that the spirits of light of this house of light are here as well, that they bless our instructor and he who shall impart the lessons to us today, that we may absorb and integrate what we have learned into our daily lives, and that we welcome the lessons with an open heart, keeping always in mind the light that we have within. And now, to begin, let us commence with the prayer that Jesus taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. So be it.
Daniel, thank you very much. Thank you. It's such a joy to have our good friends here, both of them. And we're going to start today with Andreia Marshall. Andreia is a very good friend, maybe from other times, but she's a very good friend, and they both are very, very busy, but they took time from their busy schedules to be here with us. Andreia is a worker of the Conscious Living in Miami, Florida, and she does a lot of other things. She organized the big symposium of the Florida Federation. She's part of the board, and both of them, they are directors of two editors, the FEB in the US and the Leal editors. But again, if I just the introduction of the whole good things they do for Spiritism, you're going to leave today here. So I'll ask you to unfold Andreia in our best thoughts. Andreia.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it okay that I'm standing here? Yeah. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. If every time we took time away from our busy schedule was to be with friends like these in a beautiful center such as this one, it would be a really easy going lifestyle of stepping back from the busy schedule, because we're very grateful to be here. There is something very special about this center and the workers that are doing an amazing job disseminating Spiritism in the state of Texas. And we know how big it is. We know that there are other centers also in this great state. And we applaud the efforts that are being made in order to disseminate Spiritism. So the topic that was proposed to us, if you did not see the flyer, was Spiritism and Real Life, what the youth needs to know. So before I get into it, just a show of hands, how many people are new to Spiritism? I know you're new to Spiritism, but how many people are new to Spiritism? Okay. How many people went through the youth education in the United States, Spiritist youth education in the United States? I want to raise my hands, right? Because it's very interesting when we think about the Spiritist youth education and we divide into the, according to the ages, what is being shown and how we are educating the children in light of Spiritism, maintaining that Christian vision, because Jesus is our model, our guide, And for the youth, a lot of times talking about Jesus and talking about religion is something that is, for some reason, we don't want to know about it, right? And there are reasons behind this. And there are a lot of difficulties in trying to maintain the youth engaged and interested in the Spiritist content. And a lot of it has to do, of course, with how the educators are prepared, right? For instance, the way that I went through the youth education, I'm going to say it, 30 years ago, 32 years ago, is very different in the way that it's being promoted today. I mean, the 30 plus years ago, we didn't have at our hands what the youth have today, which is the internet, this whole world that they have access to, that oftentimes are answering the questions that Spiritism, for some reason, feels it's taboo to talk about, such as sex, sexuality, and other issues, depression, really diving into the reason, the struggles that the youth are facing. And I'm not even talking about teenagers, I'm talking about kids. And it's such a very important topic because Allan Kardec, in the work called Posthumous Works, he addressed the situation that we are facing today. He will write in Posthumous Works the following. Please allow me to read it because I don't want to miss anything that he's saying. There is a chapter that is entitled Materialism and Spiritism. And he's talking about this new generation that are taking place, that are taking our place. Don't feel bad. It's normal. You know, they're going to take her place. And this is another thing that we talk about in Spiritist Center, this idea, this resistance that workers have in allowing the youth to partake in the dissemination of Spiritism, to give them a voice. And we see this happening a lot, thankfully, in the symposium. For example, Sophia, who is the fruit of this beautiful Spiritist Center, and also the education that she's receiving from her parents, and other kids that are now involved. But back in my time, there was a lot of resistance in letting the youth take the lead and come to the front and do the opening prayer and do the opening reading and making a comment and guiding them along the line. And today we have something that is very powerful, which is the internet. When we talk about kids and participating in podcasts and participating in YouTube videos and really taking the lead, they get excited. And they get excited because they have ideas that we don't have. They have ideas that are pertaining to their reality, to their basic social gathering, to that which makes it interesting for them. So that's why the International Spiritist Council created this space only for them. There is a channel that is only for them. It's being led by the youth. They're participating in symposiums. And this is what we need. Because Allan Kardec addresses this new generation as being the type of spirits that are very advanced intellectually, true? I mean, don't think less of me, but I still have a hard time thinking about Bitcoins. I still like, what? Seriously? Like and we see Marcelo's nephew investing in Bitcoins. I'm like, he's wasting money, but he's not. He's making a lot of money, and I don't understand. My father had a hard time contemplating the aspect of put everything in the cloud. So what cloud? How does that work, right? But the new generation, they arrive, they pick up a magazine, and they go like this to try to magnify the text. This is how they come prepared for it. And of course, we're talking about the immortal spirits. We don't know really where Sophia or Dylan and the other kids that are present here, where they're from, where they're coming from, what their commitment was in the spirit realm, and what they're to do in a society, becoming good individuals while also contributing to making the world a better place. I know I'm probably not allowed to do this, but please forgive me. Sophia, what's your vision of the world today? Okay. She said, if you didn't hear, she said, I don't know what you mean by that. So let me be clearer. This is good. This is good because it really goes with the study today. Let me be clearer then. When you look at the world, do you see more negative or positive? Negative. Where? Where do you see it? All around the world. Do you use Instagram? Sometimes. What do you mostly use? Okay, I'm leaving. She said she really doesn't use anything. I'm just kidding because this is amazing. That is the new generation. That is the new generation that doesn't attach itself to what is seen in the media. And although the vision is that it is negative, it is chaotic. There is something else that is happening that is not being propagated, which contributes to this materialistic idea that I am born, but I don't believe in God, because if there was a God, why is everything happening? What happened? Is he on vacation? Right? Right? And Sophia's like, no, thank you. I wish she was here beside me. She could do the whole thing. She's really intelligent. So let me ask you a question. Do you consider yourself an immortal spirit? Yeah, you do. And what makes you believe that you are an immortal spirit? You just know. It's an innate feeling, right? That's the new generation. So they come, they're more advanced intellectually, they know more than we do, they are prepared for great things, as we are seeing in the media, kids that are like 9, 10 years old and they're graduating in School of Medicine. I mean, that's insane. You look at the kid and you're like, wow, it is beautiful. That's what it is. It is beautiful to look at each one of us, including the kids, mostly the kids today, and consider what our world is going to become if they're guided properly. And if they're able to understand about Spiritism in the real life, not that which is talked about often in a way that it's a religion, it's a conventional religion, right? And you don't do wrong things because you don't want to end up in the umbral. No, it is another vision in which we talk about Spiritism as that powerful tool of empowerment of the soul. So I know I'm an immortal spirit. I know that I am created by God, therefore I am divine. I am the heir of the universe. And that's something very powerful and something that the youth are not hearing very often. And so when other kids, unlike Sophia, are attached to social media and they're seeing that reality of today, beauty, makeup, fashion, luxury, all that basically calls upon the being to become even more attached to matter, when something goes wrong, that materialism takes hold of the being and something clashes, he or she feels lost. And so Allan Kardec is going to talk about how in the upcoming centuries, we would see, this was in the 19th century, we would see a great number of suicide even among kids. And this is what's happening today. Kids that are being bullied, kids that are being shamed because of their identity, because of their sexuality, because of the way they look, because of their social status, because of their culture, because of their religious belief. It doesn't matter. It is a frailty, because these beings are also, they have this frailty within their soul, but they're also able to be moldable towards something very good, because they have this innate feeling that they are immortal spirits, that they were created by God, and that there is love. And something like that came personally to me when I was 14 was extremely powerful. Because as a teenager, back then, very different than kids today, we would say, I didn't ask to be born. I mean, why am I going through all this? How many of you thought of that when you were teenagers? Right? And not even now in adult age, right? I mean, if we consider all the things that happen to us, when Spiritism arrives at a moment of childhood and the teenagers, it is very impactful when the educators are prepared to do so in the language that today they can actually become curious about. So in our Spiritist Center, for example, if they ask me to do the education with the little kids, I run. I remember that I filled in, which is something that we shouldn't do either, right? Fill in because we're not prepared. And I swear to God, I left at 1 hour. I felt that my hair was this big and I had sweats running down my face, and it was so hard with the little kids. But the teenagers, I have an easier ability to talk to them. I like it. I find them to be beautiful, and I see the potentiality within them. So when we bring Spiritism into it, as it happened to me when I was 14 years old, I realized that yes, I did ask to be born. Maybe I even begged. Two, everything that happened to me and was happening was in accordance with the divine laws. But what laws are these? My God, now I have laws. I have impositions. And a lot of kids today, they're born and they have this detachment from religion because they're used to that conventional religion that they were exposed to when they were in previous existences. So I don't want to talk about God. I don't want to talk about Jesus because that brought a lot of suffering for me. In the mediumistic meeting, which in my view, it's called a rescue meeting, and I'm only saying this for those that may be watching for the first time. It is a meeting where dialogue takes places with spirits that are in great sufferings. Even though some may be considered obsessors or hardened spirits, in reality, they have a very deep pain within their hearts that needs to be talked to, addressed, recognized, and given the importance that it deserves, so that the spirit may digest everything that happened to him or her in that life and be able to accept a new opportunity at reincarnating yet again. This is what we do when we're incarnated and we seek therapy. We do the very same thing. There's somebody who's prepared. They talk to us. There are no impositions. They allow us to think, to rationalize about what is happening and seek the answers ourselves. So there I am, 14 years old, and by chance, I end up at the Spiritist Center. It used to be called Christian Charity Spiritist Center. And to me, it was very normal. Like, it wasn't like, what is this? And I had never heard of the word Spiritism. I never had a religion. My father was somewhat inclined towards believing that because of the experiences that I had had at a specific religious school in Brazil, I don't want to pick on any specific religion, but it proved to be something that wasn't aligned with what I believed in and what my father believed. So he said, you know what, I'm going to let you choose your religion. Very, very dangerous, right? Because if I didn't have guidance and orientation, it would have been extremely dangerous of a pathway to take. But God was so good that he allowed me as an educator, because that's another way to propose and allow the youth to understand in real life that God does not punish. There is no old man sitting on a cloud pointing a finger. In reality, God is love, justice, goodness in the way that we can't understand. And the greatest proof of God's love for us is the reincarnation that we are in. But then the youth said, you got to be kidding me. I mean, look at what's happening. But then we talk about the law of cause and effect. We talk about consequences. And we talk in such a way that they understand, because this is something else that we see in studies conducted by Harvard University about religiousness, religions, and the youth. One of the things that they see happening is that a lot of the times the youth, when they are accepting towards a religion, there is a fear involved in it, that it is imposed. Going to heaven, going to hell, right? For all eternity, burning in hell for all eternity. And thankfully, we have this book in the codification called Heaven and Hell, in which Allan Kardec talks about the idea of heaven, the idea of hell, the idea of purgatory. And then on the second part, there are various testimonies of spirits that came back to tell them about their condition in the spirit realm. And one of the ones that perhaps should be very well studied with the teens are the ones for the spirits that committed suicide. We can take one case and really, really address each dialogue, each part of the dialogue, because this makes part of the youth today. If Allan Kardec predicted that there would be this great amount of kids committing suicide, and we see that happening, how can we help them? How can we guide these souls that are frail, they're very intellectually evolved, and they have this propensity towards the good, meaning they're not fully good yet, but they're moldable. They can do amazing things. I saw Dylan. He walked here, sweet as can be. I hope he keeps that up. He said hi to Marcelo, hi to me. He hugged me. I mean, a spontaneous hug from a kid is the only thing you might need during the day, right? I'd rather take that than a $100 bill. It's much better, right? And then I saw this story here. And this is something that I want to talk about because Sophia said they're more negative in the world because that's what we see. That's what we see. The youth could have a moment of gathering the good news information that go by unseen. And so you guys have in the entrance, you have this book here, this newspaper here, Spiritism, Studied Spiritism. And I was looking through it, and there is this story that said, do you think there are many kids distributing flowers around the world? This is the title. And the story is about this man who met this little kid. He was 3 years old. His name was Netinho, Little Neto. Maybe it was you. And actually, no, it was in Maranhão, in Brazil. But he talked about this little kid who was very sensitive. He was very intelligent. He was very affectionate. And he was very spontaneous. So if he was walking along the way and he saw a flower, either by picking it or simply laying on the floor, he would pick it up and spontaneously give it to a stranger. And he would say, here's your package, your combo for the day, a flower and a smile. Can you imagine this? So he said, I lost touch with this little boy. He's probably 25 years old today. But unfortunately, I never saw on a magazine or newspaper news of people that are like this. Good news actually has a very powerful thing of actually bringing about this movement where people want to partake in it. And so one of the things that they talk about Spiritism for the youth in real life, what they need to know about charity, because that's one of the things in Spiritism. In Spiritism, we have the saying, the maxim, it's not without religion there is no salvation. It is not without Spiritism there is no salvation, but it is without charity there is no salvation. Salvation, such a harsh word for kids that come from previous existences being imposed on religions that made them suffer. There is no salvation if you don't do this. There's no salvation if you don't do that. It inspires fear. But Harvard did an interesting study. And please allow me to read it. It was called Human Flourishing Program. And it was a study conducted with over 5,000 adolescents, teenagers, they were followed for more than 8 years. And there were various controlled variables to try to isolate the effect of religious upbringing. So they found that the children who were raised in a religious or spiritual environment were better protected from the big three dangers of adolescence. And one of them, the big dangers, is suicide, this attachment to matter. And here's what they said. Those who attended religious services regularly were 12% less likely to have high depressive symptoms and 33% less likely to use drugs. They continued. Those who prayed or meditated frequently were 30% less likely to start having sex at a young age and 40% less likely to subsequently have a sexually transmitted infection. They also said that the religious upbringing contributed towards a number of positive outcomes. They were more happy. They had more interest in volunteering in the community, of doing good because they felt good. It's the reward process that we find when we study science. And this is also something very cool to talk about the kids today, because Spiritism is a science that deals with our origin, where we come from, where we're going. And this becomes more interesting. Well, that I can reason. So if I say, you need to go to church or you need to go to the center, and the kid says, why? And we say, because I said so. Back then, with me, that would work. Today, with the new generation, it doesn't work. They reason. And Spiritism is a rational faith. This is something else that we can talk about, how Spiritism can actually contribute to the real life. A faith that is based on reason. And then we start talking about the principles of Spiritism and starts making sense to them. But the study, and I'm going to show a video really quick, but the study basically showed that religion played a huge role in the well-being. And then Claudia took me to the room where the kids do yoga and meditation. That's amazing. That's amazing. Because when we start talking to the kids about the fact that they're more than a physical body, that it is a temple, and we talk about the consequences of having sex, with 1,000 people, or becoming addicted to drugs and what that does to the spirit. And we start talking about how it seems that there is inequality, that God is not just, and I'm born in a perfect body. I mean, not me, but we are born in a perfect machine, right? But then if I do something to it, if I abuse it, and there are consequences, I'm going to teach them about the perispirit. And that is the form that is going to be given to the future spirit who is being reincarnated. So when there are some kind of impairments on a physical body, I'm following 2 little girls who are called Elise and Eloa. They have progeria. I don't know if you guys follow them. They're the cutest and they're twins. They're so different, but they have this very rare thing that makes them age quicker. I often wonder what happened. But then I automatically substituted with what a victorious spirit who accepted the challenge of being born in that way because of the law of cause and effect. There was no punishment. Let's try to be reborn at a body that is going to reharmonize that which created the frailty of the physical body, the impairment, if you will. So it starts making sense. The youth starts seeing life in a different way. It becomes even more engaged because it's interesting. Science calls the attention. So Spiritism proposes this religiousness that allows for the well-being of the soul. And this is what Harvard basically was talking about. So Allan Kardec is going to say the new generation is distinguishable by an overall precocious intelligence, reason, combined with this innate sentiment, like our Sophia said, of the good, of the spirituous beliefs that I am an immortal spirit, an unmistakable sign of a certain degree of previous advancement. And so here we are, 2024, 2 months left, and we're in 2025. That's unbelievable, right? And we have this new generation that have a propensity for the good. So what are we going to do with that material? What are we going to do with it? I was talking to our youth educator back there, and she was talking about the different ages. I said, how many youth educators do you have? She said 3. And that's one of the hardest things, is getting people unafraid, if you will, because there's a fear when it talks about youth education, to get prepared to work with the youth, because we have a lot to give. If we are inclined towards the arts, involving the youth in the artistic. Leon Denis talks about the arts and Spiritism. There is a lot of material that we can use, and they have this propensity, meaning they're ready for it. They are ready for it. But we need material to allow them to not fall into what we are seeing in society today. In Florida, we have this amendment that is trying to pass where marijuana is used anywhere, anytime, however people want it. Where is this desire to utilize drug coming from? So we're talking about something deep within, deep within. And if in society today we have psychologists, psychiatrists, we should be utilizing that, even as an adult. And Spiritism helps because it assists us. I remember when I realized at 15 that I was not a victim, how hard that was to take. I'm not a victim. So my father's not a fault, the adult's not a fault. It shows a reality to the youth that is different for them. I started observing life in a different way and understanding the impact of drugs, of alcohol in the physical body. Whenever I was exposed to it, which happens a lot, and we know that. I remember talking to a teenager in our class, and I don't know what we were talking about. I think we were talking about being able to talk to the parents about anything and everything, and the parent not freaking out, right? That initial like shock, right? Being able to openly talk to them. And she said, are you kidding me? I do things my mother has no idea about. I have a different Instagram account that she doesn't have access to. Why? Why should that happen? There should be this open communication and dialogue so that the teens, the youth, can look at the parent and say, hey, you know what? I have a question about this. I'm starting to have this sensation in my chest. I'm starting to have these thoughts. I don't know if they're mine, because the kid starts to understand that there is the influence of the spirit playing and how thoughts are suggested to them. So they stop and consider and they ask for help. So that's what Spiritism in real life can do. And then we start talking to them about the principles of Spiritism in a way that it is engaging to them. And I apologize, I wanted to show this video. It's not self-propagation. Okay, I'm usually very embarrassed, but I thought the kids would like. So I'm going to ask our friends to put the video, if you don't mind.
You can try.
Yeah.
Oh, this is our medium of visual effects.
Good one. How long do I have? 10:30. Okay. Eu falei que eu não vou pagar. 10 minutos. Okay. Imagine a science that doesn't distance itself from faith and ethics, a religion that counts on the enlightenment of science.
A body of knowledge that explains who we are, where we come from, and what we are doing here.
Oh yes, most importantly, what is our destiny?
A way of interpreting nature, unveiling before us its mystery, and understanding of the law of progress, which are all under. A science that understands the invisible world and faith with reason. A science that connects us to God, and which allows for an unshakable faith based on reason. Is Spiritism all of this?
Yes, and much more.
Because it stands side by side with science and progress, meaning it evolves naturally, much like humanity does. The Spiritist principles are
The existence of God, supreme intelligence and first cause of all things, infinitely just and good.
immortality of the soul. We are immortal spirits, spiritual beings having a physical experience.
We had a beginning, we were created by God, but we reincarnate. And upon discarnation, that is, death of the physical body, our spirit lives on, ready for new experiences. Which brings us to the plurality of existence.
Reincarnation.
We have had many existences where our sole purpose and objective is spiritual progress and spiritual growth, enlightenment. Here's where we should pay close attention to the principle that guide our values, moral values, that is.
We learn that we are heirs of ourselves,
Authors of our own destinies, based on our actions in this lifetime and the future ones. Because, after all, we are governed by the great law of cause and effect. Plurality of inhabited worlds.
Earth is our home for the time being.
But there are many other inhabitable places in the universe, which we will one day learn about. Before we do, however, we must first learn about the basis for fraternity and harmony in the here and now, communicability with the spirits. Life continues after physical death, and we don't lose touch with those who are on the other side. No, those who parted before us maintain the spiritual ties of love and fraternity, which are eternal and everlasting. We can learn from other spirits, be guided or misguided, help, or even be helped by them.
Spiritism comes to us facilitating the natural need to have answers to the fundamental questions in life.
And when we use the plug-in, adding the concept of reincarnation based on a natural law of cause and effect, everything that comes from the Creator is seen as truly just and good, and our vision about life broadens infinitely.
Know thyself, said a sage in antiquity.
And learning about spiritual and natural laws facilitates the need to know oneself. It's time to be conscious and aware. Thank you. So explaining the principles of Spiritism is going to end up facilitating for... Oh, no, don't take it. It's nice. Hold on, pause it. That wasn't by chance, maybe. Is it? Do you know what channel this is from? Do you know the channel that this is from? So it's not... Okay, so we'll just leave Jesus here. It's always good to be backed up by him. I mean, this is our brother. So the principles of Spiritism, when explained in the language that they understand, and I know the youth educators are prepared in this center, but it would be nice to see the Spiritist movement growing with youth Spiritist educators to facilitate and guide these immortal beings that are here at the time entrusted to us. And it's not only the parents. I mean, at the Spiritist centers, we can even become their incarnated mentor. And I don't mean like the big ones. I just think somebody that they can come and talk to. We have that at our Spiritist center. A lot of times they come and they talk to me about, you know, their girlfriend, or they broke up with them. And they seek us because they trust us. And we have a huge responsibility because we work at the Spiritist Center. So it can't be my opinion. It needs to be the guidance, under the guiding line of Spiritism. And it helps and it facilitates. So understanding the principle, talking to them, bringing the characters that really contributed towards the dissemination of Christianity, such as Paul, is also something amazing. Paul had a very close relationship with Timothy, and he was a teen. He was very young. And it's really interesting that we need to talk about giving the space for the youth, because we have to remember the communications that were received when Allan Kardec was codifying the Spiritist body of knowledge were done through teenage mediums. The Fox sisters were teenagers as well in Hydesville. We think about Chico Xavier, who was really the one that really pushed the propagation of Spiritism in Brazil, and he started really early. He was 22 when he delivered the book Parnaso de Além Túmulo, which was a collection of poems by really great poets in Brazil and Portugal that really proved that there is the communicality with the spirits because their identity was shown. So mediumship becomes something natural. And the youth starts understanding also about mediumship. There could be a medium in the center, in the making, getting ready, and we don't know. Work that could be in the psychophony, psychography, it could be even in the light of healing. We don't know. We don't know who is before us. And this is why we really need to attach ourselves to the Spiritist teachings, not in a demanding way, but in a way that clarifies, in a way that exemplifies, because we're also going to try to wear the shirt, talk the walk, right? It's not going to be empty words. They're going to look up and say, you know what? Auntie Andreia is really what she says, right? Or she's trying to. And it becomes something easier to do. Paul, with the relationship that he had with Timothy, said something that was very impactful. He said, do not let your youthfulness become an obstacle for the greatness that you are to become. Allowing your faith, as taught by your mother, to be that rational faith guiding you. He talked about free will. This is something, there is no prohibition. Can I smoke pot? Well, he would say, I can do everything that I want. All things are lawful for me, but not all things are beneficial. Meaning, I can't do anything, but the outcome, I'm going to have to solve. And that is also contained in the first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 6, verses 12 to 13. And just to end, we're going to come with a saying from Amelia Rodriguez, who is a spirit author who writes through Divaldo Franco. I really, really encourage the reading of her books. And she would say, the child is a sowing season. The teen is a fertilized field. The adult is a harvest in production. The quality of the harvest is directly linked to the quality of the seed. We are committed to planting high-quality seeds of Spiritist knowledge in the hearts of children through the practice of love in action, the cultivation of a spiritual life and eternal moral values. We ensure these seeds will flourish when the time is right, either in their current lives or in the future. On that note, I applaud the efforts of the Spiritist youth educator. I pay homage to you with this talk because I know that it's not easy. And also all the workers from the Spiritist and Rise Spiritist Society here, congratulating you guys on maintaining faithfully the commitment that you were entrusted to, not only here, but also in the center with our Fernandinha, who's sitting here, Tanya, who is in Austin. And so Austin, yeah. We're very grateful to be here. So thank you also for entrusting us to bring the study today. And if you have any questions, we'll be here after the Portuguese presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Andreia. This is awesome. You know, I started as a teenager, I think.